Good morning. We're studying the laws of Chanukah, and we're on Siman Tafresh Ayin Aleph, which is 671-1 for those following along in the Mishnah Brura. So the Shulchan Aruch says, Tzarich li zahir ma'od b'hadlakas neres Chanukah. One has to be very careful in lighting the Chanukah lights, meaning it's a very important mitzvah. So one has to be careful to fulfill this mitzvah of lighting the Chanukah lights. It's very interesting. Chanukah is only a rabbinic obligation, but nevertheless, the Shulchan Aruch tells us how important it is. Ve'afilu ani hamizparnis min tzedakah shoel o mocher ksuso v'lokech shemen lahadlik. Lighting Chanukah candles is so important that even a poor person who's supported with tzedakah, he doesn't have a job, he's supported with charity, even he has to light Chanukah candles, and so much so that he even has to go door to door to beg for money to be able to light Chanukah lights, and even he has to even sell his clothes to afford money to light Chanukah lights. And it's interesting because in the Torah, how much money does one have to give up to fulfill a mitzvah? So usually we say that when it comes to a positive mitzvah, a person has to give up a fifth of all of his money. So if a person has $100,000 worth of assets, and the only lulav or esrog that's available is $20,000, so you have to spend up to $20,000 to get a lulav or an esrog. Now, when it comes to a negative prohibition, how much money does one have to give up to avoid violating a negative prohibition? One has to give up all of his money. So let's say your boss wants you to speak lashon hara. He wants you to speak evil about someone, about another Jew, and if you don't speak, he's going to fire you. You have to lose your job. But Chanukah, which is a positive prohibition, we see that it's so important that a poor person even has to beg for money to be able to light Chanukah lights. So we'll see exactly why and how many lights he has to have. Okay, the Mishnah Brura. Tzarich lizar ve'amrina b'Gemara haragel berner havin lobanim talmidei chachamim shenamar kiner mitzvah v'torah or. It says in the Gemara that somebody who is ragel, let's say, who's careful to light neros, to light candles, which Perish Rashi al zeh, Rashi says that means ner mitzvah de Shabbos v'Chanukah, meaning someone who lights Shabbos candles and Chanukah candles, he will merit to have children who are Torah scholars, because it says hiner mitzvah Torah or, that the light of a mitzvah is the candle of a mitzvah is the light of Torah. Va'afilu ani, we said a poor person. Why? Mishum pirsume nisa. There's an aspect of the mitzvah of Chanukah which does not apply by other mitzvahs. That is pirsume nisa. We light Chanukah lights because we want to publicize the nes, the great miracle that God did for us. That's why in Israel, really the proper way that the mitzvah is supposed to be done, and this is the way people do it in Israel, is that they actually light the Chanukah lights outside of their door, on the opposite side of the mezuzah, so everyone could see it coming through. That's why in America we light in the window, so people can see. We're publicizing the great miracle that that was done for us. Shoel ala psachim o mocher ksuso. So a poor person should, beg for charity in order to buy Chanukah lights, or he should even sell his clothes. O maschar atzmo, or he should sell himself out as a servant. However, he's only required to do this one light for every night. So usually what we do is that we have one candle the first night, two candles the second night, three candles the third night. So all of that is just the best way to perform the mitzvah. That's mahadrin min mahadrin. That's the best way to perform the mitzvah. However, one can actually fulfill the mitzvah of lighting Chanukah lights with one candle per night. So the poor person, if he's that poor, all he has to do is have enough money for one candle per night. Okay, I'm just going to look at the Be'er Halacha here. And he says, where do we know this law from? This law we find a similar law about a poor person, having to even sell his clothes to do a mitzvah when it comes to the 4 cups of wine on Passover. The reason is also because that's to publicize the miracle. We drink 4 cups of wine on Passover to publicize the miracle of our leaving Egypt. So therefore, the Gabayim, those in charge of the synagogue, they have to make sure that the poor people in the community have enough money to purchase at least one candle for each night. However, if for some reason the synagogue doesn't provide Chanukah candles for the poor people, then the poor people are required to do what the Shulchan Aruch says and to go beg for money to be able to do that. So we see the importance of lighting Hanukkah candles. Thank God nowadays we're relatively affluent compared to previous generations, so even those people that are poor usually can afford to, afford Hanukkah candles. But we see that a poor person is even required to beg for money and to sell his clothes because the mitzvah of Hanukkah is so important, because we want to publicize the great miracle that happened, that the Greeks came and oppressed us and tried to get us to abandon our faith, to abandon our belief in one God, which is the whole reason we were created, is to serve the one God, one Hashem. So really, Hashem saved us so that we can fulfill our life's mission to sort of publicize that miracle, and the fact that we're very proud that we're Jews. We light Hanukkah candles in a public place, in our window or next to the door, whatever it is, to publicize that great miracle. Have a great day.